I had no reason to have hope. I had no reason to have faith, except to prepare to bury her.
Okay, so my name's Camryn Rasmussen. I am 21, turning 22 in August. I am currently a college student. It's my senior year at Utah State University, and right now I'm majoring in music education, but I would really like to be a music performer.
Camryn is our 5th child, and when she was about 3 or 4, we noticed warts on her hands, but didn't think that much of it because little kids can get a wart or two, not a big deal. But as the years went on, more and more, and we had taken her to different doctors to try and figure out what's going on, how do we treat this virus.
Everyone kind of treated me differently because of that. You know, they see something and they're like, oh, that's not normal. So that was the one thing that people saw. They didn't see me, they saw my warts and were like, oh, I don't really want to talk to her. It was pretty rough in school, but here at home, it was just like, I was treated normally. I mean, my sisters and my brother knew what was going on. I was seen as a person.
And I want to say it was about the time that she was going to be entering middle school. And so I made an appointment with a doctor up at Vanderbilt, and he said, we take some blood work and I'll let you know what we get. I remember he'd called and said, you know, we don't see anything strange. But he said, how about you go see an immunologist? So anyway, we made an appointment with this immunologist, and she was the key.
She had told me that the first time that they took my blood and took it out to test it, they thought something was wrong and that the blood wasn't good because the white blood cell count was wrong. They took multiple blood tests, and each time my white blood cell count was really low. It wasn't something wrong with the blood getting there to the facility, it was something wrong with me. So I remember them diagnosing me with GATA2 deficiency.
Where she said most people have 50 or more natural killer cells. Camryn had 4, and of those 4, they did not function. So basically, she had nothing in her body, no immune system to fight viruses.
You know, I recall before meeting with Dr. Frank Gould, and you get the diagnosis, I was going out for my morning jog at 5 a.m. I got in the middle of the street and I collapsed. And I raised my fist to God, asking, how can you do this to my daughter? How can you do this to my family? I was angry. Later that night, in a private moment, I was reflecting upon the scriptures and my behavior in the morning of that day. And I felt this incredible peace that wrapped around my soul. And confirmation that there would be some difficult times ahead, but to keep my faith and trust in God, and things will be okay. Lots of unanswered questions and lots of things we didn't understand. And Dr. Frank Gould, who I consider to be an absolute genius, talked to us very candidly about Camryn's situation. There really, at the time, there's no cure. There's nothing they can do. He recommended to us that we do something experimental, which was a bone marrow transplant, to literally kill her immune system and do a reboot, start all over.
Once they discovered that it was GATA2, The process was laid out. This is what's going to happen. She was in school. It was over the summer. They decided, let's do the transplant, wait for flu season to be over. And while we were away, right before, they had tested all of our children to see if any of them would be a match for Camryn. And when we returned, they let us know that Morgan, our daughter, older daughter, was a perfect match for Camryn, and all the others were matches amongst themselves. And they said it was very rare to have a perfect match. Good thing I had 6 kids.
I remember going in one time and they told me that I was a miracle child because I had never gotten sick, and they were so shocked because kids that have that, not the diagnosis, but anything similar, they get sick super fast, or they always show up to the hospital or show up in a doctor's office super sick. And I walked in and I was super happy and was like, hey. I thought that was a miracle for sure.
Once Morgan graduated, she was graduating that year, and she finished her rugby season, then we would move forward with the transplant. And I remember the day, this is where the tears might come. I remember the day that they brought us in, and they brought Camryn and me and Greg. And the doctor that was supposed to do the transplant, she actually wasn't there. Instead, this other doctor, Dr. Frangul, came in. And he explained everything to us, and they were awesome. I remember on the way home, as we were just floored at all that had happened and the time that she was going to be in the hospital and just everything. It's pretty overwhelming. As we were driving on the way home, I remember the thought, I know why we live in Nashville. There's no coincidence that the absolute best doctor in the nation was there at Vanderbilt as a child oncologist. But as we sat around the table, just thinking about all that was going on, I remember Camryn looked up at Greg and she said, Daddy, do I have to do this? And he looked at her and he said, yes, Camryn, this needs to be done. And her reply was, okay. And then we just started lightening up the mood by cracking jokes about how she was going to lose her hair and all kinds of stuff. I think, but that moment right there was a beautiful moment between a child and a parent, and the trust that a child has in their parent.
The day of, I think it was the day that I was headed to the hospital to get my port in and everything, my younger sister Shay and we shared a room growing up for however long, and we were upstairs and we both woke up super, super early in the morning, probably 3:30. We just sat in our beds playing games and talking. And then around, I want to say 6 a.m., the sun started coming out. And I think my dad might have heard me and Shay and I talking or just playing and laughing. And we wanted to stay up and watch the sunrise. So when he found us, we were both standing outside near the window, or we were looking out towards the window. And I was ready to go, and I went down the stairs, and I was in the driveway, and I had a moment where I guess I wanted to say goodbye to Shay alone, because we were really, really close, super close. But there's a picture that my parents took. I didn't know they took that picture, but it's of me and Shay hugging, and we were saying goodbye to each other. And I think both of us knew that things were going to be really different from that point on.
And in the end, obviously, I'll come back to this, that before she went in the hospital, she asked for a priesthood blessing, and I was going to do that anyway. And I was worthy, I prepared, I fasted, And I put my hands on her head. And the Spirit was so strong. And I commanded, by the authority of the Holy Melchizedek priesthood, and what was in my mind, revelation, that she would be healed and that her life would continue to the full extent that the Lord wanted her to live. Now that took a lot of faith. Knowing the science behind the disease that she had, and Dr. Frank Gould, when I asked him, again for documentation, I just want to know something about it. And every single patient that had this before has passed away. They all died.
Camryn went into the hospital early on a morning. We all gathered, and then she went in, had a port put into the tube that goes in directly into her heart. She was there. She was a trooper. The chemo started. After the transplant, they said it would be this many weeks. And here's where the miracle happened. One of them, there were many, but I remember that the doctors came in and they're like, this is like a textbook case. She is recovering so fast that we don't need to keep her. There's no reason to keep her here at Vanderbilt anymore, because in essence, she had been healed with her sister's bone marrow.
I know it was a miracle. I can't deny it. I will never deny it, because I saw the clinical studies. I saw the 13 patients that had GATA2 who all passed away. And I'm supposed to pronounce a blessing that she'll be healed and cured, and I have the science that says there's no way that's going to happen. It's 0 for 13. And you think number 14 is going to survive this? How's that going to happen?
I remember my parents saying that whatever happens, it's God's will. He has a plan for each and every one of us. And my plan looks a little different than other people's plans, but we just have to let him take the wheel, and whatever outcome happens, that's what's going to happen. So through everything, I feel like there's no coincidence that this all happened. Even though I had to struggle with the fact that I could not be on this earth anymore, I still am on this earth, and I was given a second chance at life. So there's something here that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to figure out what I'm doing. So, yeah.